Thank you guys for being here. You all know the news, so what questions do you have?
Okay, we'll open up. Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Gene, you said last week you were going to let the season play out, or at least there were a lot of games left you were looking forward to. What changed?
Well, I just felt like looking at the last couple of games, few games actually, that this team needed different leadership, so I made the change.
Move over to the left. Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, how tough was this for you personally? I mean, I'm sure you don't want to fire someone on your way out the door as athletic director here.
Well, it's hard, It's really hard.
Spencer
When
Holtmann.
you have good people and you care about people, then it's hard. If you don't have a good person and you really don't care about the person, it's easier. But when you care about someone like I do, it makes it hard. I apologize.
Yeah, I apologize. Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Gene, is there a process that you're going to go through with Ross as far as getting the next steps done, and what does that look like since he's still finishing things up and you're obviously finishing your own journey?
Yeah, I've had good communications with Ross along the way here about this issue and shared with him along the way the decision that had to be made. And we talked about process moving forward, and I'll help him along the way.
You just talked about how when you have good people, it's hard to do things like this. The saying is that the coaches always have the list, no matter what the program looks like. You always got the list of who you would like. Has that been the case with you, and do you see this being, once the season wraps up, a pretty rapid process, or is this something that's going to take some time?
That's a great question for Ross. I really don't know. Sorry.
Doug Lesmerises, Kings of the North.
Gene, when you're in your position, how do you balance personal relationships, what kind of people are involved with the needs of the program and what's best for the team? What's that balance like?
Well, really the answer's in your question, Doug. My responsibility is to the program, and it's to these young men that compete every single day. I don't care what sport it is and whatever it is. My responsibility is to those young people and to the program. And so I just felt at this particular time with 6 regular season games left and Big Ten tournament and whatever the postseason brings, a spark of energy was needed. And so, it's about the program in the end. And I have to set aside my personal feelings and just go with what's best for the program.
Adam Jardy, Columbus Dispatch.
Gene, about 2-3 years ago, you made a plan with Chris to build through youth and let that youth go through some bumps, but come out on the other side of it. It seems like there's still a chance for that youth to maybe get to the potential that you guys saw. Why does that plan not work? Why is it time to change leadership when you could still, maybe give that another year?
Yeah, I think, the young men have played hard. They've given a lot, but the reality is, the body of work over this last year, I felt that they needed something different from a leadership point of view to give them that chance. While they're young, there's a lot of minutes on that floor, a lot. And so they still have 6 home games in the tournament. So I wanted to give them a shot, and that's what they have.
So you're saying, so you still believe in the talent on this team, just that talent was not being realized to the level you wanted to see it?
That's right.
Over to the right, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Gene, you mentioned the timetable was kind of up to Ross, but what will be your role in that process if Ross kind of gets that?
Yeah, so obviously we still had the remainder of the season, which I'm going to help Jake with and help navigate. And then when Ross gets here, as he shares with me his plan for the search, I'll be there to assist him and be very much a part of it, and in conversation and background information, things of that nature.
So, but it'll be pretty much completely led by him.
Yeah, but I'll be a part of it.
Dan Hope, Lebanon Warriors.
Yeah, how much input did Ross have in terms of coming to this decision? Did you talk to him a lot before you made this decision?
Yeah, I talked to him a lot, but it was my decision. You know, I told him what I was going to do. It wasn't like, what do you think?
And you made the decision a couple of years ago to give Chris a contract extension. Obviously, that increases what the buyout is now. Do you have any regrets about making that decision at that time?
Of course you do. I've had many regrets in my lifetime. I've been doing this a long time. If I could fix all the regrets that I have in my life, I'd fix them all. But certainly that's one of them.
Over to the left, Mitch Stacy, Associated Press.
How much more difficult is it to be a basketball coach in a Power 5 program now than 7 years ago when you hired Chris?
That's a great question. I think it's harder on all coaches in every sport now. I mean, if you think of the aggregate of all the issues that each coach is faced with now, the transfer portal, the lawsuits, the NIL, and uncertainty about what's coming relative to our structure and the model. It's harder today. The industry's harder, so it's harder for basketball coaches and all coaches. But the basketball coaches, they have different windows around the transfer portal, so it makes it a little bit more difficult.
How much do you think Chris struggled with all those changes? Was that
Yeah, I'm
part
not.
of it?
That's a good question for Chris. I'm not going to get into that. I appreciate the question, though. That's not for me to answer.
Back row middle, Clay Hall, WSYX.
Were there things that you tried to change the course? I know you're not going to talk about where he fell short, but was it the same kind of thing? And what did you tell him? I think we need to do better here, there.
Yeah, Clay, I'm not going to get into that. I appreciate that. With all due respect, I'm just not going to go there.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
You talked about how it's getting harder now for college basketball coaches. Just what is the standard right now for Ohio State men's basketball in a changing landscape of just college sports?
There's nothing changed for any of our sports. I think we have 13 or 14 ranked in the top 25 right now. Well, we're getting ready to watch one of them, a great one. I mean, nothing's changed. I mean, all of our programs have the same standard. The blessing that we have at The Ohio State University is to recruit to this platform, to recruit to Columbus, the resources that Buckeye Nation provides us. So the standard for men's basketball is the same. Be in the hunt, periodically win the championship, and go deep into the postseason. And that hasn't changed. And so that hasn't been accomplished. We need to do better.
Back row, Steve Hellwagon, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Gene, back
Sorry,
straight
Steve.
ahead. To make a decision of this magnitude with this amount of money involved, I assume that President Carter had to be involved. What were those conversations like? You've just got to know him in the last 3 months. Just what were those discussions like?
Well, President Carter is unbelievable. Obviously, because of his athletic background and his understanding of our space, conversations are pretty straightforward and frank. And he's a decision maker, which I like. There's no gray area. And so he agreed, he supported, and we made the decision.
If I can also ask, 19 years you've been here, so many great ups, downs, many great things that happen, great accomplishments. As you bring in Ross and welcome him to this community and everything that goes with it, what are the recommendations that you're going to make to Ross about what can be done to improve the fan experience, the overall environment, and getting people to come back to the Schottenstein Center to watch Ohio State men's basketball? It just died on the vine in the last 3 years. What can you do? What can you recommend to him
So
in your
funny.
mind that needs to be done?
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, you guys are opinion makers. To say that it died on the vine,
Lowest attendance you've ever had.
yeah, but it's still 8,000. I mean, we can debate that all we want to, but at the end of the day, this is at 8,000 fans at the last game that we won. So the facts are this. We have to have expectations consistent with reality. There's going to be games throughout the year where you're going to only have 8 or 10. You guys seem to forget that conversation from like 10 years ago. The reality is that's going to happen. It happened during Thad Matta's years. Go back and look at the numbers. There were 8,000 and 10,000 fans periodically throughout the season. However, to your point, there's got to be 6, 7, or 8 games where we're close to that sellout or at the sellout. We haven't had that, to your point. That's really what you're talking about. It hadn't died on the vine. At the end of the day, we need to get better. We need to win. And my advice to Ross is simple. Product, place, price. That's marketing. You got to win. You got to win.
Adam King, WBNS.
Kind of went off of that, Gene. You've done a good job in your career bringing in good people that are also good coaches. I know you're not going to make this decision with Ross, but how much are you going to try to instill what it takes to put Ohio State back where they were just 10 years ago in the program?
Yeah, I'm going to be all in. I'm going to be all in with Ross. I'm going to be honest, forthright, authentic, and genuine. And tell him that, we got to find somebody that has the X's and O's and those talents and skills, but they got to fit our values. They got to fit our culture. So I'll be involved. It'll be heavy.
Guys, I'm going to go just a few more questions over to the right. Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Gene, you mentioned the last few games, like 9 of the last 11 have been losses. Why was this game after Wisconsin the time you decided to pull the plug?
Well, it's something I obviously have been thinking about for a little bit. And, I am so appreciative that Jake Diebler stepped up and accepted the challenge. That's not easy. I hope you guys appreciate that what he's doing is not easy. And so my heart is with him to a great degree. But we have a little runway. You have days between now and Sunday where you have time to accept the emotions of this moment and adjust and begin to coach our kids. I mean, there's some games where you only have 2.5 days to recover. Actually, less than that. It's a day and a half because you get on a plane to go somewhere. So the runway for him is the best that it could possibly be when you're this deep in the season. So I'm so appreciative of him just stepping up and being a warrior and taking this on.
What do you see of Jake stepping in on the court? What do you imagine he'll be at?
It's hard to imagine, except, I think he's a very good coach. I think he's gonna demonstrate, for the kids, just at the end of the day, that we just need to keep fighting all the way through. And he's gonna do that. And so I feel good about it.
Joe Nugent, WCMH.
With making the decision now to put the program in a position of strength in terms of the search, getting started a little bit earlier. I know Ross will,
Yeah.
do it.
And it's not a big gain. You can do some background checking and things of that nature, but it's not a huge gain because you really can't begin to talk to candidates till the end of the season. It's more about these 6 games and where these kids are and trying to give them a spark, and hopefully it shows up on the floor. Guys, I appreciate the time. I've always appreciated you. So sorry I got to roll. Thanks.